Let's talk about the ubiquitous drop shadow. I love using words I don't understand. Let me give you two more words for you. Commonplace. How about boring? Now that may or may seem to be the correct terminology, but before we get into that, let's go into our exercise files and open up Drop Shadow PSD right there. Now I've done a few things. All I have is one layer with the word drop shadow and a background with this kind of sandy color to it. Help us see the drop shadow when we apply it. Remember, you cannot apply a layer style to a background. It must be a layer. And I did something else. The word drop shadow is actually paint. What I want to make sure is you're looking at the same thing I am, and if you don't have the same fonts I'm using, it would change that to another font, which I guess is not the end of the world. But after I typed the word into that layer, it became a text layer. I then went up to the word layer on the pull-down menu and went down to rasterize right there. Now it's grayed out because I already did it. But it turns it into paint. Does not impact layer style one iota. Now drop shadows. Go into the FX button right here. And down at the bottom is the word drop shadow. Go ahead and click that. As you can see, we start seeing this drop shadow. What's going on here is cues to your brain. We know logically, intellectually, that that's a flat surface. There is no drop shadow. But in the way it works, it cues the brain to see something lifting off the surface. That's what a lot of these layer styles do. They create a sense of a three-dimensional aspect in a two-dimensional space. Now we have all of our other styles right here. So if we wanted to, we could do anything we wanted to that drop shadow without ever leaving the layer style dialog box right here. Let's see what we got. Number one, the shadow itself, not the layer, but the shadow does have a blending mode defaulting to multiply. Multiply kind of multiplies itself into the background, creates a sense almost that the shadow is really there and it's not just some solid color. Multiply is the default. You could try something else if you wanted to. The default color is black. If you want to try something else, go ahead. Down here we have opacity. It's at 75% to help the shadow softly move itself into that background to our eyes. Now there are cases, if the shadow is displayed against the perception of a harsher light, you might want to increase the opacity to create a harsher shadow. Now the angle right now is 125 degrees. That's down and to the right. Studies show that the most comfortable angle for a drop shadow on a two-dimensional surface is 125 degrees. Why? Because if there's nothing else influencing us in this image, we're going to assume something. We're going to assume the sun is up, not down. So when the shadow is coming down this way, we assume the light source would be maybe someplace up here. And according to studies, and people really do study this stuff, the best angle for me to feel comfortable with what you have done is down and to the right. Now, global light by default is on. What is that? That means if we apply multiple styles to the image, the light source will always stay the same in all of them. And in most cases, that's probably what you want. The next three options are distance, spread, and size. Now, distance, watch the shadow when I move distance. Now, to me, what that looks like, it's as if the word is rising off of the surface as that shadow becomes more offset. The next one down is spread, which increases the overall density of the shadow. And size is, well, it's kind of like Gaussian blur. And we can soften it or we can harden it up. Let's leave it right about there for now. We do have a preview button over here anytime you want to see the original or you want to see the drop shadow. Down here we have a quality setting in contour. Now what contour does is it changes the curve of the shadow, gives you some interesting ways to display it. And you might want to play around with these. Most of these probably will make the shadow look more surrealistic as opposed to a natural shadow. But you could play around and try doing different things with it that way. If I come back up to this one right here, it puts us back into what might be defined more as a normal shadow. You do have an anti-alias feature here. It's a very subtle thing, but it will soften the shadow slightly, make it look a little bit more natural. And you have a noise option down here. And if we select noise and bring it up, it makes the shadow noisy. Now let's stop for a second. Click OK. We now have the drop shadow right there. We know what opacity does. The whole thing is going to go down. Everything. But fill, remember, because we're dealing with a layer style, we'll drop out the fill color and leave the layer style, and it'll look something, well, look like this. So it's like you took a spray can and laid the drop shadow words like pieces of cardboard, sprayed across it, and then removed the cardboard. At least that's what I see. So the drop shadow is there, but it's knocked out. The words have knocked it out. So let's do this. Let's take that back to 100, and let's go back into drop shadow by double-clicking right here. That's the quickest way to do it. You have an option, Layer Knocks Out Drop Shadow. Now go ahead and deselect that. Click OK. Now watch what happens when we remove the fill. The fill doesn't knock out the shadow. That's exactly what that option means. Let me go ahead and take that back to 100. And let's go one more time into drop shadow. You have one more option at the bottom that's new. Make default or reset to default. Maybe you're doing a couple of more shadows and you want to use this as your default all the time. Every time you come here, you want to start with this premise that you have a noisy shadow. Well, you could say make default just simply by clicking there. And everything that you see would then be the default. If you say, nah, I was just playing around. I think I want it back to normal. And you can say reset to defaults. And it'll take it all the way back for you. Remember, layer styles, especially things like drop shadows, are designed to take a two-dimensional space and make it look three-dimensional by giving our brain cues. And as crazy as that sounds, the most comfortable angle for a shadow, according to marketing studies, is at 125 degrees. On to the next.